just mention his name and title and level of importance and
Level of importance. You cannot possibly touch the level of importance.
your level of on Fortnite. You play Fortnite, right? So you have
all right,
a
of course.
level on there as well.
Can't even spell it.
So, absolutely. Fortnite. All right. Well, good afternoon to those of you that are tuning in right now for our weekly live Q&A with Pastor Shane. And if you were able to join us last week, you noticed that we had a couple guests, Pastors John and Bob. And today as well, we have another guest. So, which we're really excited to have Tim T.J. Joyce join us this afternoon. And he is the CEO, president of the YMCA of Greater Richmond. So, Tim, welcome to our live Q&A with Shane and I.
Welcome to the party.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to have a lot of fun this afternoon. And as always, for those of you that are joining in, we want you to please share the questions that come to your mind within the comments area. We have a number of questions here already prepared, but we definitely want to hear directly from you, the viewer, live during our 30 or plus minutes that we have this afternoon. So to get us started, Tim, for the sake of our viewers that may not know you yet, could you perhaps give a brief introduction about yourself, perhaps just allude to how you got involved in the YMCA and what led to your role there that you have currently, and then perhaps as well if you could give us a bit of personal background, maybe geared towards how you and your family are involved in other ways in our community too.
Okay. Well, my involvement of the YMCA is very personal. I'm convinced that when my mother dropped me off when I was 7 years old, the car was still rolling when she opened the door. It was just Mom and I, so we had some challenges in our family at that point. My dad was not present, and she needed a break. So if you think I have a lot of energy now, you should have seen me as a 7-year-old. So a friend said, Adelaide, you need to take that boy to the Y.
Okay.
So in some form, Jim, since I was 7 years old, I've been involved in the YMCA. Whether it's after school, summer camp, team programs. When I was 16, my very first job, other than pushing a lawnmower around the yard, was a lifeguard.
Okay.
But my life changed when I was 18, and I went to go work at the summer camp that we had. It was a resident camp on the coast of North Carolina. And I like to say it was the first time I was ever responsible for another human being. And that changes. I was in a cabin with a bunch of 9-year-olds. I was not a good cabin counselor my first year.
You don't train based on your model then?
No, they're just kind of test
all
by
the
fire.
Y camp leaders right now.
They're all hearing it right now, right? And I had the honor of addressing them on Saturday, about 300 of them. But yeah, that started changing my life because at that point there were 4 very God-fearing men that saw value in me and stepped into me. And I did not realize at the time, when I tell people that they were helping me learn how to be a man, one day how to be a husband, and one day how to be a father.
Wow.
Nice.
And so it's the power of a mentor in one's life. So I did that all in all through college, as we said. Once I went to school, I never went back in the summers. I went there. And then in 1985, my dream job came up that I got hired by the camp. So I was the program director. And the rest, they say, is history. Raleigh's home. So I come from Raleigh, North Carolina. I had 27 amazing years in that organization professionally, but if you do the math, I don't mind telling on myself, I've been in the YMCA now for about 57 years. Okay, no, 56 years, so much for math.
Okay.
You can do it, it just won't be right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
all right.
And it's why I age myself, right? So yeah, I've got this story that I like to tell about. It's a personal one, and many people have a personal Y story of learning how to swim, or as a God's princess, or something like that. But as I say, I was that child that got kicked out a few times, that if you had one nerve left, he was stomping on it, that you would love to get him out of your cabin or out of your huddle. But like I say, if you don't give up, and a lot of people did not give up on me, and a lot of people helped financially to underwrite my ability to go there. If you don't give up, God's wheels of justice and plan might grind slow, but they grind very long.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that person just might grow up to be your next CEO.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what's going to happen. So I know if I had some of my youth counselors now, they're looking at going, oh, there's no way this guy's a CEO now, right? But it's, so that's kind of my story. 5.5 years ago, Richmond came open, wasn't looking. It's often known that if you love what you do, love where you live, and love who you work with, you got the world by the tail. You really do. And that was Raleigh.
Yeah.
Many of us had grown up in the camp together. My boss and my best friend there, we've been together for 40 years,
Wow.
right? We could finish each other's statements,
Uh-huh.
good and bad at times, right? But I wasn't looking. Friend came and said, look, Richmond's open. You need to look at it. I go, I'm
Okay.
not interested. And he goes, no, this is you. You need to pray about it.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad you made that prayer, buddy.
That's
Be
right.
careful what you pray for.
That's
right?
right.
Absolutely.
So
I'm
it's-
very grateful
here.
you made
So a
that
little
prayer.
over 5 years you've been in this
Yeah,
role?
about 5.5 years. I've
Okay.
been, as I like to say, the chief encouragement officer
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
Richmond YMCA.
Okay.
And it has been an amazing run.
Okay.
Is
Well,
our 30 minutes done? How's that?
Yeah, that's
There we
right.
go. There you go.
Right.
Tim, TJ, one of the reasons you're on today and why I invited you is because I just really, really respect TJ. He's actually one of the chief encouragers of mine personally, too. He's just been cheering us on and been involved at West End Assembly of God for several years.
Yeah.
And he and his family volunteer here and are part of our community. And one of his greatest assets to our church is really the encouragement he is to me. So I'm so happy that we all get to hear, certainly Richmond, you're a very familiar face in Richmond, but I'm excited for some of our Facebook viewers to get to know you today too.
Did you just blame me for your services?
Yeah, I pretty much
Okay,
did.
got it.
So
Got
it's
it.
his fault.
Yeah, my fault.
It's a great acronym for CEO, and from the little bit that we've been talking prior to our broadcast this evening, I take it you're also Chief Entertainment Officer?
It depends on what group I'm in front of. Yes. Yeah.
Very good. Well, Shane, to get before we get into the meat of the questions today, so for those viewers that may not have catched this past Sunday's sermon, could you provide the 60-second version?
Absolutely.
I almost said 67-second version.
The people who came here Sunday are wishing I could have done the 60-second version, but
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So what
Oh,
happened?
no.
I could get,
TJ,
I could
come
get the
on.
lunch. No, I'm kidding.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
feel the love.
I really enjoyed this past week for me personally, the study leading up to it, as we concluded our impact series and talked about the seeds of impact. And the seeds of impact are really this concept that we find all through Scripture. Jesus himself used the analogy, this farming analogy of planting seeds of good works, planting seeds in people's hearts, and how the Word of God is seen and lived out in our lives. And we plant these seeds of impact through perseverance, through perception. He did listen. Look at that.
So that was just a test.
That was a
He
test.
like, all right,
I'm
let's
here
see who's
for
gonna
you.
jump in.
And partnership.
And
So I'm
partnership.
glad to have one of our great partners here in the YMCA today to join us. So it's a great picture, really, of what we've talked about.
Very good. Well, thank you, Shane. And TJ, I'm going to start with you, if I may. So always throw the guest under the bus first, right? Is that the way how it works? Just going to kick you off into the deep end since YMCA has all
This
these
is why I
schools and
started
so forth.
inviting guests, so you
Yeah.
can stop doing that.
There we go. So Shane gets a little bit of a break. So Shane made the point in Sunday's sermon that workers, aka volunteers, we can refer to them as, are often few because the work of planting seeds of change is so difficult. No doubt you've seen the need for perseverance even when help is lacking at times. What have you seen contribute to the fact that it is so difficult to make a difference in our city? So what has contributed to the difficulty of making a difference in our city?
I'm not sure. I can speak to the city, but I believe what it is very much synonymous in any city. People constantly say, what is the challenge to people joining the Y and coming there? I'm sure it's all the competition. It's not. The issue of competition and the challenge of people being involved is their time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's so many demands on people. I love to say, we have so many people step up and give us time, talent, and treasures. You can always make more talent by learning new skills. You can give more money by making more money, but I'm yet to see a human being that can make more time.
Yeah.
It is
good.
it is the non-renewable resource, and what you have is finite. I was with a great brother today for lunch, and we were talking about the statement, and forgive me, you can get there faster, but it's, Lord, teach me to number my days, right? So what does that mean in terms of volunteering? And there's just a lot of demands, a lot of things that come at people. People have life, as you help us know.
Yeah.
We come in with baggage on our shoulders. They come into the YMCA. We work very hard to try to help others find significance. I read a great book. You've probably read it. It's called Finishing Well by Bob Buford.
Yeah.
great book about how people basically move from success to significance, regardless of how many commas and zeros are in their paycheck, right? Bill Gates has got a few more than me, but we're both going to move at some place in our life from success to significance. How do we help a person to find significance in what they're doing? So in going to the East End Cemetery, that will be a place of significance for somebody. We have no idea people's backstories. You didn't know that I was a troubled kid, and the why means so much to me until I shared that. So we don't know what's going to happen with the cemetery piece, but there could be somebody that has a backstory, and where they're actually going is finding significance in their life. So Jim, the issue is how do we try to create places of significance, multiple places, because not everybody's cookie cutter, right? And so that's what we do at the YMCA. We have a lot of push in our Togetherhood program, which is about volunteerism, just helping people with different avenues, whether it's tutoring kids, or whether it's cleaning up a camp, or whether it's going and working in a cemetery in the East End, whatever it might be. You don't know where the switch is going to flip, but when you take the mass of it, it truly is time. And so people in that limited point, they will, in our experience, they will pick and choose where they're going. So therefore, the breadth of opportunity creates it. Now, there's a negative side to that. Jesus didn't tell us to go run, right? He said, be with, I believe. Now, I probably condensed it a little too tight, but he said, be with, right? So
That's a general consensus.
I think he'd sign off on that.
It's directional, right? It's directional.
That's pretty much.
Right? But how do we be with without creating all these programs, things like this, yet with at the same time creating avenues that people can find their place of significance? If that makes sense.
That's great.
So, Shane's first point was about perseverance. Do you find then that you have to sort of help stoke perseverance in folks to keep at it, to discover that significance of being involved?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
One of my rabbis, somebody once said you have friends, mentors, and rabbis. And a rabbi might be somebody you never meet, but they speak, like John Ortberg is a rabbi to me, right? Right. And so one of the things is always moving from here to there. And as a leader, you've constantly got to be reminding people why you're doing what you're doing. So I was in a staff meeting this morning, and we're dealing with a big nut to get to. I'm like, remember, it's about why. Our job is to say, why are we doing this? So his battle cry from the front, and when we're there, it's like, well, why does cleaning up a cemetery, and I'm just going to come to that, because you did say we're going to dig up graves, which is a whole new thing.
Exactly.
We could talk about that later.
This makes it really exciting.
If you missed the sermon, you want to go back and listen to that.
It was a great closing point. Everybody was listening. They came up on it. But the point being is, what is it about going to do that that then, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it?
That's good.
So.
Yeah, Shane, stemming from what TJ was just sharing with us, from your perspective, what makes perseverance one of the keys to planting seeds of impact?
Well, I love TJ's point about time. Boy, that's a battle, right? But encouraging people that it's a good battle. It's a good tension in your life, To your point, it can swing the other way. It has to remain a tension. And that's a battle. When Jesus said to his followers, and he said, the harvest is plentiful. There's plenty of work to do. There's always plenty of work to do. It's never ending. But the workers are few. I think part of what he was saying was he was looking, and they were walking past the field. It was just this idea. That's the agricultural time that they lived in. And here's Jesus walking past the field, and he gets everybody's attention. And he says, look, the work's never going to end. It's never going to, as far as that field, as far as your eye can see, the work is plenty, but the workers are few. I think it was talking about this sense of overwhelming, that when I look out of that field and think, oh my gosh, what am I? I'm just one person in this whole field. What could I possibly do? And I think it's overwhelming for us to look in the city of Richmond and say, there are so many needs. What could I possibly do? And isn't it amazing coming from the Lord of Lords, who they got to walk the earth with, and watch the example of this one-on-one ministry that Jesus modeled, that said, hey, you can make a huge difference. Can you help one person? And I think part of that, don't you find that too, TJ? It's like, it's always about the one. And if we start looking at it and we become too much like a corporation. And I love that about the YMCA, how hard you work to keep it about the individual. That's the why.
Well, and that's also our challenge because we are a big business.
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
And as our battle cry is strengthen the business to advance the mission.
No, that's good.
Right, we got to play on both words. We're not for profit, but we're also not for loss. Right? Okay. And I mean that's part of my
That's
job.
so true. Yes,
and
yeah,
we have a lot of people that count on us.
Yeah.
Shane, it's funny what you said. I roll through this, and I don't want to put you on the spot theologically, but why did Jesus say the poor will be with you always? It's almost like the fields are ripe.
Yeah.
They'll always be there, right? It's kind of that same thing. And I wonder if it was like, well, it's not that you can't solve poverty.
Yeah.
We can solve poverty in this world. We got more than enough resource. We produce
Yeah.
enough. We got enough money. There's geopolitical issues that make it so it happen. Human beings get involved.
Yeah.
But maybe what it was is to call us out of our complacency. I'm always going to give you
That's
the poor.
good.
I'm always going to do it because otherwise you're going to get too comfortable and you're going to get too complacent.
Yeah.
So we have Richmond.
Yeah.
And Richmond, one of the things that drew me here, Jim, was this amazing history. Nobody
Yeah.
else in this nation has a history like Virginia,
Yeah.
right? And so that history comes forward, and as we've learned in talking with folks, and one of the key things is sitting at the table with people, right? There's a great book called Toxic Charity by Lupton.
That's good, yeah. We've had our.
I gave it out to people, and I ended up giving out 1,000 copies.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that gave out the book, got no royalties, not a good business person. All right, but the point being is it's sitting at the table with people. And so when you're sitting at the table and you're learning and listening, when you're a type A personality, it's like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to do that. It makes
The
us-
microphones, yes.
It's like, let's go,
Yeah.
right? Let's go.
Advice
We got
on
things to do.
theirs.
Well, you
Yeah.
can't do that because everybody's got asset, everybody's got an opinion, and the wrong thing, and which has been done for many years in this city and all over the world, mission trips or whatever, we come flying and goes, hey, we know what's best. Let us build this for you, do this for you. Your indigenous workers, we're going to put them out of work while we come in and do it, and then we're going to leave.
Yeah.
Don't get me going, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but what happens is that's the wrong way to go about it. The book's a great book. So if the listeners here, I highly recommend Toxic Charity by Lupton. But the point being is, how do we go and listen and truly try to understand what's happening?
That's good.
The poor are going to be with us always. We have this historical narrative in this city and in this central Virginia that many times I have found the richness of the history comes forward. But if your entire dialogue is about history, you have no place for a presence.
Yeah.
And there has to be this point. There's a great leader, you probably know him, Reverend Don Coleman of ECM
Oh,
Fellowship.
sure.
He talks about the new Richmond,
Yeah.
right? And about, yes, we have this historical perspective, which is really strong, but there's this new movement of
Yeah.
people really getting after the social equity of what's happening.
That's good.
Because you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Richmond's just got this. Seattle doesn't have this. Nothing to anybody from Seattle, please, right? But Seattle doesn't have that kind of history of this social equity like
Yeah.
Richmond does.
Yeah.
That calls us in to do things that no matter sometimes when you try to do it, you get people jumping back
Yeah.
at you and you're going, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to help. Oh, well, maybe I'm trying to help in my way
Yeah.
instead of sitting down and asking.
Yeah.
So this whole thing
Yeah.
coming to the cemetery, I'm sure hoping somebody's asked somebody, hey, can we come do this? Or is it just a bunch of people doing good of a church going to come clean up a cemetery? Because if we're just coming in there to do it and we haven't asked them and they're not there with us,
Yeah.
we're just continuing
Yeah.
the issue, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, and I
As you
do.
see,
I
I
think
give
it's
long
overwhelming.
answers to short questions.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
you want to
You're-
invite me back.
You're
So-
taking all the pressure off me today. I think
Engage for you.
it's really, really good, Jim, the point of that overwhelming feeling that people have. And maybe, to your point, TJ, the theology behind that too has an aspect of the poor always with you. So you have to know the steps that God is ordering for you. And you have to stay on that path. And as you do, doing what you can.
Yeah.
Always doing what you can. You can't meet every need, but you can meet a need.
Yeah.
You can do something, and to do the right thing, to TJ's point, don't do the thing that creates more crisis. Choose the thing wisely that you do. And don't be discouraged. I think Jesus was saying, look at the field. It's white with harvest. The work will never end. I think that is true in people.
Right.
We see this all the time. It's discouraging to help somebody. If you've ever helped somebody, if some of our listeners right now are relating, please don't post their name, okay? But if you've ever helped somebody and they keep back with the same problem over and over and over again, I mean, I think Jesus was probably he lived that out in front of his own followers, as the 12 people that changed the world. And they were kind of a bunch of mess ups at times, and people who didn't have faith, and people who blew it. And here Jesus was reminding the same lessons over and over again. We don't have control of the outcome, but we have control of the seed that we plant. God takes care of that other part. God is the one who brings the growth. We'll talk more about that later. But I think it's important to start knowing in the very beginning of all this to do what I can and to step into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you just alluded to, too, just doing something. It doesn't have to be huge.
Yeah.
How many times did Jesus talk about the seed of a mustard tree and how small it
Yeah.
was? And TJ, no doubt you've seen the sort of domino effect of many small seeds that the Y has planted in our city eventually take root. By planting them and having the perseverance to keep at them and so forth. Is there an example or two that may come to mind that you can cite where that transpired?
Yes, so the YMCA of Richmond is 164 years old.
Okay.
So we've
Been around a little while.
Just
Yeah,
a little while,
yeah,
right?
just a little while,
We had some
yeah.
good times, some bad times.
Yeah.
Civil War, not a good time. Right? But we have been part of the fabric for so long. So, Jim, as you say that, there's two things that were started back in the 90s that are still rolling, that began with just a singular vision. One of them was to teach children how to swim that didn't have access to swimming pools.
Wow.
We've been doing it for about 25 years now. It's called the Learn to Swim campaign. And where it is now is we will teach more than 3,000 children in Title I schools, serving basically every city school in Richmond, second graders, and then some in Chesterfield County, Hanover County, Powhatan, Goochland, totally free. We raise the money for it. The school, in their school day, makes it so they can come to the Y. They bring them in their buses. That's their skin in the game,
Yeah.
right? And then we, have the guards, instructors, or whatever, things like that. And so we're teaching 3,000 kids
Yeah.
every year. We partner with Swim RVA. We partner with other organizations. Right now I'm in conversations with a new executive director, Rick Nelson, over at Weinstein JCC. How does the YMCA, and I love this because we're both on it, how's the YMCA?
And there's no pressure on that organization now that
No,
they've gone
Rick, don't
public
worry
at
about it, buddy. I just threw you out there. But here's the beauty of it.
Public now.
Here's the beauty of it. Christian organization, Jewish organization,
Yeah.
working together for the better of all the children,
Yeah.
right? And there's others that come to it. So that's one. The other one was a program that we started basically 25 years ago last year, which is called Bright Beginnings, right? And that is where we began the process of getting book bags for children getting ready to go back to school.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
great.
then morphed, and we raised a lot of money for this, that we now take them also shopping. So a lot of people do book bags, and so it's come to mind, it's like, okay, well, do we need to do it anymore? Because if you were to ask me the question, and maybe it's further down the page, a challenge in this community is we're all very philanthropic. So we're duplicating a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And if we would get out of the way and let this person go do this that they're best at, we could be better stewards of the resources, both financial and volunteer of that.
Yeah.
So Bright Beginnings, we do book bags like everybody else, and we serve close to about 2,200 kids a year. We have 2,500 volunteers. It's an amazing program, but we also take them shopping, right, for clothes. So
I love how personal that is.
it's just coming down to it. We get their sizes, we work with the parents and things along those lines. So when you say, what are two little things that have happened that continue to plant seeds? Those were both 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That I'm just the helmsman at the helm of this ship, just trying to steer it, that
Yeah.
somebody did a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
that is two awesome stories. Really appreciate that. And one that comes to my mind too is I know that the furniture bank that Caritas has started from just one person trying to solve the needs of one individual as well. And look how big of it now. It's so awesome to see that occur. Shane, your second point was in regards to perspective. And I'd like to ask you, you talked about how the perspective of Jesus as he saw the crowds that were gathering around him, he saw them with compassion. Not with sort of an overwhelming sense of dread and wanting to retreat, but with compassion. What is the key to our ability to view crowds of needs like Jesus did?
Well, I think one thing I didn't say Sunday is, that even Jesus, there were times, I wouldn't say that Jesus was overwhelmed with a crowd, but Jesus even knew to get away.
To get away from it.
And I didn't talk about that Sunday, and I think it's key because I think someone could hear, if you're listening, you could hear us saying, always be in a crowd, always be about the crowd. And there needs to be time when you go. Now, Jesus taught us this lesson, and you may be in a different place theologically with me, but there needs to be a place where you refill yourself.
Yeah.
For me, and for Jesus' example, that was with the Father and spending time with God. But if you do that, when you see the crowd, you get a different perspective. And I pray this prayer all the time. Lord, let me have your eyes. Let me see people the way you see people. And the YMCA, again, another great example of this is you minister to the crowds. I've been a member of the YMCA. I'm going on record here for quite a long time. I paid my dues. And,
How about you, Jim? Where are you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We don't want to interrupt.
don't bring
this
another
crowd.
competitor in here. Okay. You just stuck with me.
Stay with you today.
Okay. So I've watched you do this. You've helped teach my kids to swim as they were growing up, but you've met a need that everyone has, regardless of their position financially, but you've utilized a need of individuals who don't have the means to do that, and you use something that's common to everyone. For us, it's the same, and I think Jesus was asking us to look at a crowd, instead of just a crowd, to see a group with individual needs. And that group is not just, that's how we get away from corporate. And we say, yeah, there's corporations like TJ leads, like I lead, other people who are watching, other nonprofits and for-profit organizations that make a difference in our city. But the only way that's going to happen is if we begin to see crowds. I think, whether you agree with Jesus or not, I think you're seeing a crowd the way Jesus saw it when you begin to see that group as a group of individual with individual needs.
Yeah. TJ, Shane just alluded to the fact that you run an organization, and just like Shane does, you have to be mindful of large groups of people. So how do you find, you and your staff in leading the Y, able to deliver programs to groups, but still insert into that and make sure you've got that compassion for individuals as well through the work that you all do?
We talk about this all the time, Jim. It's relational engagement 101. Okay. So deep in the protocol of what we do, our youth programs, we want a 1 to 10, 1 to 12 ratio, staff to 12 kids. By state law, we can run it about 1 to 18, 1 to 20, 1 to 18 if you're licensed, not licensed. Some places run 1 to 20, 1 to 25, right? So right there, you already have a relational issue to it. So we spend the money, we have the discipline to get after, and we train and teach. And this past weekend with 300 summer camp counselors in a room for 4 hours, and we're training. It's like, it's all about the one. It's how do you get to know the one? We talk at the front desk. Everybody that comes through those doors, they're looking for that safe space. They got the world on their back. How, when they come in, however long they're with us, can we, and we talk about this, how can we bestow upon them dignity, respect, value, that all have the foundation of love?
Yeah.
And the reason that we can do that, and it's right or wrong, but it's just the way we lead, is we are all created in the image of God. You're in the image of God, I am, Shane is, and it's because of that, if you can get that, and that's where I go a lot of times, then you can give that.
See, I thought I was special when they greeted me at the Y, but now I know I'm not so special.
Yeah, just wanted to
treat everybody
right?
that way.
Good, then I hope you're feeling that.
Yeah.
But
Hey, shout out to Tuckahoe Y greeters. You guys are awesome.
Here.
Every single time. I can miss months and you still remember who I am. So.
The other thing is then we really, and I'm getting a little bit operational, but we break it down, and that is just look people in the eyes. Too many people in this world are never seen, right? For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whether it's their skin color, it's their age, their height, it's their challenge, whatever it might be, right? It might be the way they dress, might be the way they smell, right? See people. Number two, I believe personally you can change the world by smiling at a person, because I think it multiplies. See, both of y'all started smiling just with that.
Just with you saying
God,
smile.
And God has given amazing smiles to people.
Yeah.
And then the third one is speak to them. Right? So it's not fancy machines. We do our work. We have good machinery. We keep our buildings clean. We got 74-year-old facilities, right? Our downtown is very historic. So it's not that we compete with. It
Right.
truly is about those greeters, the people that meet you at Tuckahoe. It's the instructors, it's those on the floor.
Absolutely.
But it's just breaking it down to the humanity you see in one human to another and realizing they are loved because they are created in the image of God. Now, you just keep having that message. And then the other thing that we do, and I make no bones about it, is every day it's his why. My name's not in it. His is in it.
Yeah.
I'm not the captain of that ship, as somebody once said about Lincoln. Lincoln saw himself as the helmsman of the ship, just trying to strive the course that the captain gives him.
Okay.
That's all I try to do.
Yeah.
That's all our staff does,
Yeah.
to put that out there. And
Well, I know we appreciate the C and the YMCA, but even those who are non-Christian, I think have appreciated all of the YMCAs and the fact that they take that approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
so and I won't test you to see as a member you've memorized the mission statement. I won't do that to you. But the last
Well,
two
let's
words.
just assume, of course.
The last two words are for all. Well, isn't that what the church is for all?
Yeah.
Well, one of the special, our Bible verse is John 17:21, that they all may be one, Father, as I am in you and you are in me.
Wow.
And maybe be one together so that the world knows that you sent me.
That's good.
That is our foundation.
a
It
prayer of
speaks
Jesus,
to
yeah.
it speaks to unity.
Yeah.
Is that not what you're trying to do
That's
as we
absolutely
just
right.
try to encourage to step out beyond ourselves in unity to go love other human beings?
Yeah.
Whether it's cleaning a graveyard or whatever might be coming next.
Yeah, that's great perspective.
You've partly already answered my next question, but I want to ask it anyway because I think it's just so important for us to kind of delve into, and that is you've already given a few concrete things that folks can do regardless of position, even outside of for-profits. I mean, even outside of nonprofits. Sorry, I said that backwards. If we consider that many of our viewers are in the for-profit world and they may not be leading entire organizations, some of what you just said, is there anything that you would cite as to how they, in their daily lives, can plant seeds of change in their worlds, kind of with some of the missional guide that you were just saying that informs how you all operate the Y? Yeah.
So I say this with a little bit of hypocrisy.
Okay.
Okay? Being transparent.
Good.
Live
You
on
fit
TV.
right- you fit
There we
right
go.
in.
There we go, right? And that is, my job's very busy. So I don't get the chance to step outside of my life to give back as much as I want. So when you say my wife and I volunteer here, my wife volunteers here, and I tag along behind.
Yeah.
How's that?
That's right. That's right.
So now, before I took this role, when I was back in Raleigh, my job wasn't quite as demanding. So Dinah and I used to drive a food truck on the weekends, going and picking up food and bringing it back to Interfaith Food Shuttle, which is an amazing ministry. It's kind of like Feed More Here, which is an amazing another nonprofit
Absolutely.
to be involved in.
Right.
And so we did that. I haven't had that opportunity to do it. So I give it under that cloak of that. Our focus, Jim, and we serve a lot. We serve children, teens, seniors, adults, special needs populations, regardless of faith, income, color, wherever.
Yeah.
We go, everybody is welcome. However, asking me personally, sitting here, the future is in the children. Okay? So we need to serve those that are no longer children, but we need to invest into our children and teens. So if you ask me for a tangible, wherever you feel so led, can you read an hour to a child? Now, many of us grew up, I bet right now if you go in your house, you got a bunch of books.
Yeah.
There's families in Richmond, they don't have a book. So there's some great organizations like Wells Fargo and others that their employees, they go out and buy books, and then they go read to the children and then give them the book. So you got about three powerful things there. They're coming together to go raise it, to go get it. They go and sit with that child, one-on-one interaction, getting to know them, and then they give them the book.
Yeah.
That's three different pieces there. Look for places that you can do that where you compound it, but at the end of the day, it's easy to stroke a check.
Yeah.
It's another thing to sit on the floor and read to a child, or to the program that we used to, I'm hoping we still do. I know that we do a lot of tutorial work in some of the churches and the libraries right around
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And the different communities that are international, to go and do that and be part of it. But that might not be your thing, but it might be. Again,
Very good. Thank you for that. I understand that we have a question from the audience, so we definitely want to make sure we hear this question.
This is a question from Stephen Norris. He says, what kind of ministries does the YMCA get involved with?
What kind of ministries does the YMCA get involved with?
well, I would consider life a ministry. right? So you say, what kind of ministries? You can default and go many ways. I believe our jobs and our lives are ministry. So for Stephen and for the Y is where you stand and where you are. How do you love on other people, right? Now, if you're looking for more programmatic, defined missional programs, ministries that we do, we don't have enough time to talk about all of them.
Yeah, you partner with a lot of people.
Right. So part of it's partnering,
Yeah.
which is very much, and how do we say it? Like you brought up Caritas, right? So we don't do homelessness. They do amazing homeless work.
Right.
But when Caritas comes here, they go to the Tuckahoe Y and take showers.
Right.
Right? I got a lot of shower heads. Right? So that's how we support
Yeah.
others.
Yeah,
so
that's
I would come back to Stephen and others is where are those places of significance? What's God stirring your soul? Is it reading to a child? Is it educational literacy? Is it feeding? Is it food? Go to Feed More. Oh my gosh, getting amazing what's going. If it is homelessness, Caritas, you've lifted that up in amazing ways. At the Y proper, if I can make a sales pitch on this, is we have different faiths and groups that are constantly doing Bible studies, or they're meeting, or they're breaking bread together. This coming Saturday, I believe, is the International World Refugee Day.
Awesome.
I didn't know if you knew that. It's
No.
it's like World Puzzle Day and World Donut Day. Well, it's World Refugee Day. Difference between refugees and immigrants. Well, there's an amazing organization called, I want to say it's Reestablish Richmond or Embrace Richmond. And
I'm sure we can see it on your website.
very much. A crossover ministry is part of that.
Oh, yeah.
Great
We
group.
partner with them, too.
So what we do is we shut down the gym at the Tuckahoe YMCA, and all these groups come and set up. The churches, Catholic Charities, who's involved. All these buses are bringing all these people here. It is like the United Nations. It's an amazing day. Well, you shut a gym down at the YMCA on a Saturday, you might as well shut down I-95 going south for beach weekend, right? But we do that. Not that we run it, we just partner it.
Yeah.
So to Stephen and others is, what is God stirring in your soul? And then it's like the YMCA and other places, you say, what's the challenge sometimes? It's the fear of the call.
Yeah.
Am I going to get through? Oh, I can't get through. Oh, I'm busy. I get through. Oh, always a lot of excuses there. But that's the ministries that we're all kind of fabric into.
Wow.
I love that you dive into partnerships like that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not sure how Stephen knew that the next question was going to be for you
It's a
about how
setup.
the
It was a
YMCA
setup.
partners with how do you look for partnerships and so forth. So Shane, I'd like
Great
to go.
answer.
Yes, exactly. That was awesome.
You didn't even know the question was coming.
So Shane, I'd like to go back to you and because your last point in the sermon, but also the last of this series on impact and leading up to the next coming series, City on a Hill, was this whole idea of partnership and partnering with God and partnering with others. And certainly WEAG is planting lots of seeds of impact in our city coming up this summer and through Lift Up RVA and so forth. But how do you suggest that people, through what WEAG is doing and outside of WEAG, how might they plant seeds of impact within our community?
Awesome question. I think that partnership is so key. We teach around here that same principle that TJ was actually stating, just a little differently, but stating that we're looking for what God is doing and we want to go join him there.
Yeah.
So what's God doing through you? We want to join him. Many times our leaders are doing that. One of our own, you talked about a reading program, Russ Rayner, one of our WEAG
He's a great Y
folks.
member.
So he's another great Y member who's had lots of Bible studies there, and he's doing a reading program. Everyone can read to a child, but some great ways that they can partner. Of course, we have Lift Up RVA coming. Recognizing that you're not alone. We want to take our whole summer and make that our focus, and really join God at work in our city. That's what Lift Up RVA is all about. And you can go to the website, liftuprva.org, and check out the many, many opportunities that are there. I know the YMCA's website, you can go on there as well. There's so many ways that you can get involved in what God is doing in our city. You mentioned the East End Cemetery. We're choosing 3 dates, Jim, throughout the summer. One in June, one in July, and one in August. And our June date, the first one coming up, is June 23rd. And June 23rd, we're going to go to East End Cemetery. And it sounds kind of strange. I know I did misrepresent it and say we were digging up graves.
Grave digging.
I didn't mean
Grave digging.
grave digging. No, digging up bones. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We are actually uncovering and really beautifying a space for people to find their loved ones, and out of respect to a community, in our African American community, we have a sordid history in Richmond, and it's really an embarrassing history that we look at. That's a reality, that there were people in our world who were mistreated and vilely so, and you couldn't even bury your loved one legally. And now there's going back and finding these graveyards that are completely grown over. And I said, why not the church? Yeah. Why not us get involved? And there are many people in our church. I just bumped into a WEAGer the other day who told me, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Working
really?
with, and so there's all kinds of different ways to get involved. This is just one way. We're going to go pour our energy on June 23rd into uncovering the gravestones, and so people can find their loved ones. We're going to put them they're going to be placed on a website where people can find their ancestry, and it's just a beautiful way to get involved. It's one simple way of many, many ways. We're going to be taking a street in downtown Richmond and really working with several homes on that street. We're going to be doing some renovation and doing some work. There's work for all of us at different levels. You may be there to give water out and to help the workers that are there. You may be there, one of the guys or girls who are just schlepping stuff around and carrying things. You may be someone who has a gift, who actually has the ability to do some things that we lean on. And I think through the YMCA and through West End Assembly of God, you got two organizations here that you could, the workers are few. We need your help, and the work is never ending. But recognize when we're doing this, and I'll close with this, is recognize that we're not alone. We're not alone in this. That God said but pray to the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth workers into his harvest field. And that's happening all over our country, all over our city, especially in Richmond, Virginia. The churches you mentioned, Pastor Don, East End Fellowship. There's so many churches that we partner with. Center Church in downtown Richmond, Jackson Ward, we're partnering with them. We're partnering with United Church, Pastor Adam Martino. We're doing some great things together. The YMCA, and we have been partnering with you all for years. So looking forward to this truth and living this out, that we're not alone. We do it as one of Jesus' followers, as he intended.
Good. Well, thank you for that. And TJ, thank you very much for sharing with our viewers this afternoon, too, your perspective and how the Y has been so instrumental in planting seeds of change over so many years, 160 so, just here in Richmond, and continue strong today with thousands of volunteers and so forth as well. So if you would like to get involved in YMCA, the website is for the Greater Richmond Y.
Way to put me on the spot, Jim.
Sorry.
YMCARichmond.org.
There we go. YMCARichmond.org.
Hope I'm right.
Already linked it.
You'll hear from Charlotte if it's not.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Charlotte's watching right
That's
now.
Right.
That's right.
And liftuprva.org is the other website that Shane mentioned earlier, where you can keep abreast of all the projects that are coming up. A lot of details are still forthcoming, especially for the dates that are lined up for July and August. So please keep watching that website. You can even subscribe to updates so you'll be notified as we get more information posted there for you. And Shane, next week you're starting a whole new series that's really going to embrace Richmond, right?
Yeah,
Would you like to go ahead and set that up for us? And I believe as we close, we're going to have the promo video run for
really
viewers
cool.
too.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, we're kicking off a brand new series called City on a Hill. There's a passage in Scripture that talks about how, as the kingdom followers, those who follow the ways of Jesus, ought to be like a city on a hill. A light that cannot be hidden. And the good works of doing the works of the kingdom of heaven, we want our whole city to feel the works of Jesus. And so we want to embrace that as a church through Lift Up RVA. But we're going to be taking a look for the next 8 weeks on Sunday mornings, what it looks like to be a city on a hill. There are 7 hills in Richmond that a lot of people don't realize. There are many. There's hundreds of hills in Richmond.
Yes,
but
these are the official hills.
But
Yes.
these are 7, and they're debated over which one is, and some of them are not even existent anymore. But we're going to take a look at history, a little history lesson at those 7 hills. It'll be some fun facts we share each week. But also, it's a great illustration of a place that those who follow Jesus can step into, your own city, maybe you're not watching from Richmond, Virginia, but certainly in Richmond, how we can step in as Jesus followers and be a city on a hill, a light that can't be hidden.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we look forward to that series, and we invite you to join us for that series starting next Sunday, but our times do change next week, so they'll be at 10 a.m. on Sunday,
That's right.
either here on site or watching live.
3 different services, one time.
3 different services, one time, 10 a.m. starting next Sunday, going through the summer. And we'll be back live with you again next Tuesday at 3 o'clock, so we hope you can join us then as well. As we sign off, we hope you enjoy this video.
Thank you, TJ. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
It was awesome.
It's been a joy.
Thank you very much.
Jim.
Appreciate
very
it.
much.